things first. So we kind of got into metrics yesterday. I showed you how to convert between things that are really big numbers and really small numbers by moving decimal place. And you can always use that. That's very convenient to use. It involves no math. It's easy. But that's why the metric system is so useful, because you can do that. You have these really big numbers and you can express, and really small numbers, and you can express them in a way that makes sense. Okay? You can talk about the distance from here to the sun, and you don't need to say it's, 1 trillion millimeters. You can put it in a way that makes sense. You can probably use kilometers or something like that to make it a normal sort of number. That's why it's so great. Okay, so in chemistry you also need to convert between measurements of one units to another, and one way to do that is to use conversion factor. This is conversion factor we will use all year long. Okay, so this is why it's the most important thing you will learn all year, because it's something that we use in almost every single chapter. Whenever we do math, we're tending to do this. So conversion factor. What happened? Oh yeah.
Something bad.
Figure it out. It's a simple ratio that relates two units that express a measurement of the same quantity. Bless you. And if this doesn't make sense when I start writing on the board, I promise it will make sense. Conversion factors are formed by setting up a fraction that has equivalent amounts on top and bottom. For the most part, with a handful of exceptions, you know many conversion factors. If I asked you how many feet were in a yard, you'd say what?
Say
3, okay? It's a conversion factor. 3 feet equals 1 yard. Two numbers that are equal would have different units for conversion factors. How many feet are in a mile? How many quarts in a gallon? 4. Okay, things that you probably have already known for a while, you are going to be conversion factors. And the way that you set them up and use them is kind of central to this class, because you're going to be converting between one thing and another all the time. So it's really useful for this class. It's useful if you go beyond this class. This kind of using conversion factors and using this method of problem solving I'm going to show you can help you solve problems in math, can help you solve problems in physics, and it's really, really helpful. Okay? There are lots of times when I was in physics class in college, and I'd look at the test and be like, not so much. But then you just kind of work your way through it using this method I'm going to show you, and you can get to the right answer usually. Okay, so conversion factors. That sums up my whole college career. Just looking at tests and going, Okay, whatever. No, it's fine. I don't want your pity. Do I need this again? What's so funny? Conversion factors. What happened?
Nothing.
You jumbled over it.
This is something right in the back.
Yep. Write this on the back. Let's stick with things that we know. We'll use 1 feet. Wow. 3 feet equals 1 yard.
Use 1 feet.
Equals 1/3 of a yard. And you could do that.
Not go into.
Yes, you could also do that. This number is easier to multiply with, though. So 3 feet equals 1 yard. Those are two numbers that mean the same thing. And so you can use them in a conversion factor. When you have a conversion factor, you put them in a fraction. But the fraction is a little bit different than you're used to in math. It's just two numbers that are equal. And you can write it one of two ways. I like to put parentheses around mine. You don't, not every teacher does that. You can write 1 yard equals 3 feet. Or you can write 3 feet equals 1 yard.
And then signs that shows that they're equal.
Nope. In this fraction, the fraction bar means that just two numbers that are equal. so you don't need to write any equal signs or anything. You're just saying, and you'll see how we use them in a second. But this is what a conversion factor looks like. These allow you to get from a unit of one thing to a unit of a different thing. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, there's some steps. So let's see, steps to solve conversion. Okay, so steps to solve conversion factor problems. What if the problem was, let's see, how many feet in 2.58 yards? Now this math, in your head, a lot of you probably already know what I'm going to do. Okay, but this way to solving problems is picking an easy problem first, and we'll kind of build off of it in a second. But this is, you probably have a vague idea what to do. The first part of any problem that we're converting is always write what you're given. In this case, we're given 2.58 yards, so we're going to write that down, 2.58 yards. It's also very important to label what you're working with. Now, well, you'll see why in a second, but as we start doing more conversion problems, there's going to be lots of labels in there. You'll want to write them down. Okay, write what you're given. Write these down so I wouldn't forget them. Oh yeah, set up a conversion factor. Okay, that's step 2. Set. Now, this part is kind of open to interpretation. You can do it many different ways. I like to just kind of write a conversion factor right here. This part's on top, and then the conversion factor is to the top and a bottom. And so it's kind of like set up in a, 4 kind of sections, 4 quadrants. You can almost imagine like 2.58 over 1 here. You can imagine it in your brain if you want to. You want to get rid of yards, and what do you want your answer in? Feet. Okay, so when you do that, you kind of mentally say, okay, I want to get rid of yards, so I'm going to write yards on bottom, and I'm going to have feet on top. Is there a relationship between yards and feet? Do you know what it is?
3 to 1.
3 to 1, right? So there's 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay. Now when you do this math, now you set it up, so there's your setup. And finally, in step 3, you either, well, sometimes you do both, but in this case, only one. You either multiply or divide to find an answer.
Can you cross multiply?
Yes, unattached only to show this work. No, you do not cross multiply in this. Okay. There'll be lots of things you cross multiply on in this class, but this is not one of them. When you have a conversion factor, you multiply across and you divide by what's on bottom. So if this number was like 5 on bottom, you would do 2.58 times 3 divided by 5. In this case, it's 1 on bottom, so all that you're doing is 2.58 times 3. Now the key to this is that the units cancel out. That's what makes this so great, is that you can solve a problem by setting this up and say, okay, well, yards, just the word, not the number. This cancels this. Like in a fraction, when you have 1 on top and 1 on bottom, they cancel out, right? And what word are you left with? Feet. What's our answer supposed to be in? Feet. So you can always tell if you're doing this right. That's kind of that's not how you spell feet. Close though. You can always tell if you're doing this right because the stuff you don't want gets canceled and the stuff that you do want stays around. Okay, so you always have the thing that you don't want or you want to get canceled on bottom and the one you want to get to on top. And the numbers come from, hopefully you've memorized some of them. We're going to start off with easy conversion factors. But some of them you'll have to look up. Some of them are just made up. And the beauty is that you can have anything. As long as you know the conversion factor, you can solve any problem using this method. Now I know that you're saying, I could have just done this in my brain, taken 2.58 times 3, and just had it on the calculator and done. And you can, okay? But as you get more and more steps, as we add more and more conversion factors, the problem with this can be 3, 4, 5 conversion factors long. Then you kind of can't do that in your brain anymore. So the setup is really, really important. If you get away from the setup and you start being lazy with it, you're not going to have success when we start doing more complicated problems. So I know it's easy right now, but I promise you it gets more complex. Okay, so 2.58 times 3. Anyone?
7.74.
6.74?
7.7.
7.74. Every conversion problem has to have a unit for an answer. On tests or quizzes, if you don't put units there, you won't get full credit. Okay? And as we start off, I want to see units in here too that show that you know how the setup works. Okay? You don't have to cross words off if you don't want. I'm just showing you that they do cancel out. But I do want the whole setup and solving the problem to look like that. So far, so good? Should we do another one? Or do you want to try one? Do you think you're advanced enough to try one right now? Okay, fine. How many inches in 7.74 feet? See what I did there? Is using the same number that I'm using it? I can make a different number. It's just made up.
That's good.
Okay. So, how many inches in 7.74 feet? Take 3 minutes right now, and even if you don't know the math, at least set the problem up. Write it out, what you're given first, what your conversion factor should be, and if you have the calculator, you can solve it.
So should I stop it?
Alright. Okay, so the setup first, always write what you're given, 7.74 feet. And set up your conversion factor. I always write it out first. If it helps you, put the labels in first, and then put the numbers in. So I want to get rid of feet, so where are they going to go, on bottom or top? Bottom. And I want my answer in what? Inches, so put them back. And I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so you just kind of look at the numbers. I'm picking ones that you've memorized. Sometimes you have to look them up, and I'll show you where you can find some of them in a second. And so in this case, are we multiplying or dividing? Multiplying it. 7.74 times 12 divided by 1. I could have, had a similar problem where it was 1 on top and 12 on bottom, then you divide. Okay. Sometimes you have both, 12 and 4 on bottom, and you would multiply by 12, divide by 4, and get your answer. And so this ends up being what?
92.88
Super. 92.88 what?
inches.
Inches, because you see that feet has canceled out, feet on top, feet on bottom. Always remember that every answer has to have units on it. Fair enough, right? Questions, concerns, or feelings? Okay. I'm going to erase. We're going to try it. More complicated problem. Sometimes problems can't be solved by one magical step without doing some math and so you can have conversion factor problems, can have, plenty of steps. I mean, like I said, 5 is not uncommon. In this class, you probably never go more than 3 or 4, but to give you practice, you might see some longer problems in the beginning. What if I said, okay, how about how many miles are in 1,550 yards. Ooh. Okay. So, as you're writing that down, in your brain, there's a way to figure it out. There is a conversion factor from miles to yards, and you can figure it out in your head if you wanted to and do some math. But it's not easy. And so if you break this into smaller pieces, though, it becomes a 2-step problem that's not that difficult. Okay? So I'm going to write, first I'm given 1,550 yards. I would love to have a conversion factor that had yards here and miles here, but there's not one you can find readily without doing some math first. So instead of yards, let's break it up into smaller pieces. So I know that there are how many yards, and not miles, but what's another number I could use? Feet, right? So everyone should know, or maybe you should know, that there's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So if I go from yards to feet, that's a that. And then I can go from, on this one, I want to get rid of feet, so feet to miles, and then everything cancels out and it works. So let's take a look, there are 3 feet in 1 yard, and I get rid of yards here. And then here, I've got, how many feet in a mile did I just say? 5,280 feet in 1 mile. And notice that feet here cancels feet there. And what's the only thing that I didn't cross out? Miles. What's my answer supposed to be in? Miles. So again, if you kind of do that mental check, as long as you plug the numbers in right and you don't have sausage fingers when you hit your calculator, then you're going to get this right. Okay, so this one's a little bit different. When you have a problem that's more than one step, multiply by everything on top, divide by everything on bottom, and hit enter once. It always is right that way. So on this problem, I would do 1550 times 3 times 1 divided by 1 divided by 5,280. Hit enter. If these numbers were like 20 and 25, you can still do it the same way. You hit enter once and just do everything on top, divide by everything on bottom. It always works out bueno. So what is this?
188.
188.
Miles.
This is doing great. I'm so proud of you right now. So breaking up into smaller pieces allows you to get kind of more than one step. Do you have questions or concerns or feelings? Okay. Oh, I know. But just wait.
The battery's flashing.